Hi everyone, welcome along to today's video. This one, central heating again. You know, that annoying little thing that keeps breaking down. Always when you need it in the winter, when it goes wrong, isn't it? Sometimes hot water, but mainly the central heating, and we're in the right fix for that goes. Now, a lot of times, I'm not saying every time, but a lot of times it is this thing here that is causing a problem, or two single port ones that are causing the problem. Now, the combi boiler, you do still have a three-way valve, but unfortunately you are not allowed to touch it, I'm afraid. You can't take the front off a combi boiler. You really have to be gas safe registered. So if you have a problem with a combi boiler with a three-way valve, I'm afraid it's completely out of your hands. You're not to touch it, okay. But with all you with an F&E system, that is the old copper cylinder, tank and aloft, the little header tank and rads and so on, yes, you can do something about it, because you will either have one of these items here, this is the 3-port valve, or you'll have two separate single port valves. They look the same, but just like that, with two ports, one in, one out. One will go to the hot water cylinder on that pipe, it will run out and go into there, so you know that's the hot water one. The other one will disappear off on a pipe heading towards your central heating radiators and sorting them out. So, we all know I've done plenty of zone valve problems, the main one being that it's an easy fix in most cases if the motor has gone. So what will happen, you'll go to turn the thing on, the boiler, and what will have happened is the motor would have burnt out in here. And once that's happened, you can get round it, thankfully. You can make your boiler work quite easily and run until you change the new head on top of this motor, which is replaceable, thank goodness. This is the most common type. This is the old sprung return valve. It's a Honeywell one, and it's the most popular one there is around. And this is sprung return because it's on a spring. You can hear this when I spring this up here. Let's get to you there and just spring it forward. You can hear that or not? Maybe not. Anyway, that little lever there, handily for us, means that we can pull that over like so and lock it into there. Once it's locked into there, it's in manual mode. Once it's in there, the two micro switches inside this three-way valve connect and enable your boiler to light up. So, a lot of the time, all you got to do, either if it's a 2-port or a 3-port, is pull that lever, lock it in the manual mode, and your boiler will go again, and you'll have heating and hot water. Or if just one's gone, hot water or the heating, and you can run it like that until you get your new head to put back on your valve body. They're thankfully not too bad, around about £40-ish, and job done. They just screw straight on top of that body there. All we've got to do is make sure you get the wires the same as you undo them from the control box. These valves will probably be in your airing cupboard, normally next to the hot water cylinder, and you'll find, say, either a 3-one like this or a 2-port one. So what else can go wrong? Well, some of you have said to me that the valve is open, and this lever is kind of flopping around. You know, now they can't lock it in there. So what's gone wrong? Well, it could be that the motor is completely broken altogether and it won't engage or anything. There's not much you can do. You can't make it lock, you can't do anything. But 9 times out of 10 it would be that the motor is okay. And you can check this by turning the heat and hot water on whatever side is gone and see if the spring goes over. See if it moves. If it does, it means the valve is opening, but something else is wrong. Now this is the one that people miss, can't work out what's gone wrong, if that's going, why isn't the heating or hot water going? Well, that is because, unbeknown to a lot of people, there are a couple of micro switches in here that need to be switched over when the valve goes on. Once that goes over there, they switch, and depending on what you've got on, hot water, heating or both, on a three-way, those micro switches power up the boiler. They connect, and the feeds out on these other wires, which make you probably wonder why there's so many wires on these valves, are the powering wires for the boiler to go and the pump to run. So them micro switches have to be working, and in the two-way valve you've only got one micro switch obviously, and if that one is kaput, then I'm afraid you can put it in manual or do whatever and it still won't work the boiler. So I'm going to show you that little micro switch now, and it's not too bad a thing, you know, to change. It is on a circuit board on these, but some are not, so worth a look at and see if you fancy being up to the job. If not, you can still just get the complete head, bolt it on and wire it up, and therefore you've kind of sorted it anyway. So let's have a look at it now, shall we? These little horrible little micro switches inside these that you probably never knew you had. There you can see switch 1 and 2, okay, on the board there, labelled, and it can be one of those that's gone. Now usually it's switch 2 and a 3 port, but whatever, those little micro switches are sort of a couple of quid, 3 quid or so to renew. It's just that they are on the circuit board there. When you switch to manual, on the outside of this valve here, into that little slot, when it goes up into there, you pull the motor lever over. I'm going to show you what happens when you do that, because you'll find that's when the two micro switches are engaged. So I'm going to pull the lever over, you can see. We'll look down there at the micro switches. I'll get my thumb on it so it doesn't move around there, just watch. And there you can see that the micro switches have connected and will be making the boiler light up and run. You'll have heating and hot water obviously, but you can get you by until you get a new top. Now sometimes if it's just the motor that's gone, you can just replace the motor if you want the cheaper option, if you don't mind getting stuck in with a little bit of wiring in there. But if it's one of those micro switches down there, then well, you could just renew one of those at £3 or £4 or whatever. But again, you've got to be good to get going in there and get the soldering iron out and do it. But it can be done. But those micro switches are another reason why sometimes when you pull that lever across, on either this one's a 3-port valve or a 2-port valve, and you find that it's still not doing the job. In fact, the lever doesn't stay there, it's all kind of flopping around. And it can be the motor's still burnt out, don't get me wrong, but sometimes the motor will be all right. It's just that one of those little switches is not connecting anymore. Now, if you find you've been renewing these once or twice in a year, or every couple of years it's burnt out again, it may well be that you will have to renew this body part as well down here where the paddle is. And there's 2 O-rings in there that seal the motor, and sometimes you can get water leaking through the O-ring and it stiffens the motor up. You can take it out and grease them all up, but it really isn't worth it. I would renew the whole thing then, the whole valve. Also the paddle can just jam up with yes, a good old friend, black sludge. It can get right into the valve. So I'll show you what happens when the paddle is operated. Okay, so we'll pull that there and you can see, I think there's enough light hopefully, it move. As I take my finger off the manual release, see it close back over. There we are then, a little heads up on the three-way valve and something else that can go wrong with your heating system and it still causes you a lot of grief. These things are a pain, but they're simplistic little things really in the way they work. A great idea, and the spring is all fundamental in these for making them work. I've actually known the springs to go as well on these sprung return ones, so that's something else that can go wrong. Once again, if you just change the whole top, you renew the whole part lot together, don't you? If you mess around with the switches or the motor itself, you could still have a worn spring mechanism. So my advice is always to renew the whole thing, but that's your choice. Okay, so just a little heads up on that one as to why when sometimes you put that in manual mode and it still doesn't make the boiler fire up if it's heating or hot water that has actually gone, or say both. That's it though, just a little one on that one for you. Usual place for all my stuff, you know, to go Derek and 33. Thanks for watching guys, bye bye.